I knew the laugh would come before it even touched her lips. My mother had a talent for cruelty. Sharp, punctual, intentional. "Guess your grandfather didn't love you that much," she said, as the lawyer slid the thin envelope across the polished table. "Everyone else got yachts, penthouses, horsepower on wheels, a company worth swallowing cities. I got a plane ticket. Their eyes landed on me like vultures waiting for a stumble. I didn't give them one. I only nodded, slipped the envelope into my coat, and left without a word. They thought the story ended there. They were wrong. I used to crave their approval. Strange, remembering that now. When I was younger, I believed loyalty was a currency they would someday repay. I followed my mother from city to city, boardroom to boardroom, playing the perfect quiet daughter. My grandfather was the only one who ever saw me, really saw me. But my mother hated that he trusted me more than her, hated that when he looked at me, he saw the heir she could never be. Back then, I didn't know how far her resentment went. I didn't know she'd hide letters, delete messages. I didn't know she'd make sure I was always too busy to visit him. I only realized the truth when it was already too late, when his health had failed and I'd been kept away by her careful lies. The betrayal wasn't loud, it was quiet, intentional, a lifetime of small cuts, and I remembered every one. The plane hummed beneath me as I flew toward Monaco, ticket resting on my lap like a mystery my grandfather had written with a trembling hand. I studied it. No return date. Curiosity had always been my ruin. It became my salvation. When I stepped off the plane, the heat clung to me like a warning. A driver in a crisp suit held a sign with my name. "Ma'am," he said, opening the door of a black car that purred like danger, "the prince wants to see you." I didn't flinch. Shock is a luxury for the unprepared. "Take me to him." Monaco glittered, but the estate we stopped at didn't glitter. It commanded. Stone, glass, steel, a fortress disguised as elegance. The prince waited in a courtyard, tall, silver-haired, eyes assessing. I recognized those eyes. I'd seen their warmth once, decades ago, in a photo my grandfather kept in a locked drawer. "You've grown," he said softly. "You have his posture." I didn't speak. I let him fill the silence. "He asked me to protect what was truly his legacy," the prince continued. "Not the company, not the cars. You." He handed me a folder, thick, heavy, the weight of truth. Inside were documents, legal, financial, personal, recordings, letters, proof of everything my mother had done to cut me out of his life. Proof of how she manipulated him in his final months. Proof of how she siphoned money, steered decisions, forged signatures in desperation. And at the bottom, my grandfather's handwritten note. "You were always the only one who could handle the truth. Now, handle them." I felt something settle inside me. Not anger, not grief. Precision. I moved quietly. First, the lawyers. My grandfather had transferred controlling shares of the company to an offshore trust in my name. My mother never saw it coming. She thought she'd inherited power. She had only inherited the facade. Second, a forensic audit leaked, anonymously, of course. Her signature forgeries, her financial siphoning, all exposed with surgical timing. Her allies evaporated overnight. Third, the board meeting. She walked in confident, unaware the ground beneath her had already been cut open. When she saw me at the head of the table, her face cracked. "This seat isn't yours," she hissed. "It never was," I replied. The board voted swiftly, unanimously. She was removed. Security escorted her out as she clawed at her last scraps of dignity. I didn't move. I didn't smile. I simply watched the woman who tried to erase me become a ghost in a hallway. The final piece was personal. I visited her that night, In the penthouse, she'd already begun packing to leave. Boxes everywhere, symbols of a life collapsing in real time. "You planned this," she said, shaking. "No," I answered. "He did. I just finished it." She sank onto a box, defeated. For the first time, she looked small. "I did everything for this family." "No," I said. "You did everything for yourself. And you lost." I left her there, surrounded by things she no longer owned, haunted by a power she'd never regain. Now, I stand on the balcony of the Monaco estate, the real inheritance. The sea is calm. For the first time, so am I. My grandfather didn't give me a yacht, a penthouse, or a fleet of cars. He gave me the truth. He gave me purpose. He gave me the tools to take back everything they stole from us. And I did. Quietly, precisely, completely. Justice isn't loud. Revenge doesn't need to scream. Sometimes it arrives in a small envelope with a plane ticket and a promise written between the lines. Go finish what I couldn't.